Welcome to the Long Island Sound Podcast, where music discovery begins. Here's your host, Steve Yusko.
Hey, I've got another great episode and a great story and a great guest. It's a story of a guy who moved from the Bronx up to the Hudson Valley as a young man, landed in a fertile field of encouragement and kudos to his parents. He has a marketing flair. You're going to hear about developing the muse and how to approach the music business. He has a beautiful voice. He also plays his song live for us. Check out Christian Evanko. Hey, welcome to the Long Island Sound Podcast. So good to have you.
Thanks for having me. This is a great show. I've been checking it out all week on Spotify. It's very bingeable, so I have to give you your kudos for that one. Fantastic program, and I'm happy to be here.
Wow. I'm gonna tell my wife that because, she always tells me, just shut the hell up and quit taking pictures of yourself. And I try to explain it. It's a brand. It's a brand. I'm a brand, honey. She's like, yeah, shut up.
No, totally. There's so many great episodes. I enjoyed The Twisted Sister. That was fantastic. Dee Snider's a local radio host in my area, so it's cool to kind of get a little bit of that camps experience.
Interesting. It's, what's funny, Christian, is, and I tell her, I'm nobody, right? And it's all about networking and just running into people. And I'm kind of shocked by the people, even the most recent people that I've been able to get on the program, at Robin Wilson from the Gin Blossoms, and just had Mindy Smith, who's a famous Nashville singer-songwriter who was discovered by Dolly Parton. It's just like another, who knows. But it's not about them, Christian. It's about you. And, when I go out to see somebody play and sing, I say, when did it strike you? When did you pick up the instrument? When did it strike you to say, hey, I think I can do this?
Well, I think my interest was first piqued in a very distinctive memory when I was a very little kid. We lived in the Bronx, where our families were very close, and so we'd often just go over to my aunt's house or my other aunt's house multiple times of the week, right? Just the big family get-togethers, not even on holidays. It was fantastic. And my uncle had this guitar that he kept behind the U-couch. Because it was like kind of those those city duplex houses where it's just like always connected. Yeah. Exactly. And so the U-couch was a perfect solution to fit a lot of people in a small space, right? And in the center of the U, he always kept the acoustic. And on rare occasions when it was a little quieter or there wasn't a ball game on or something, he'd take it out. And I just always remembered being drawn to it. Just as a little kid, 3, 4, 5 years old, just always being fascinated by it. Flash forward, I'm 11, getting a little older, and he gets me a guitar for my birthday because it never went away. That fascination with it never went away. And he actually taught me my first few lessons, my Uncle Tommy. I will say that I was a little difficult to teach, and he was very patient. I don't think I quite clicked with it at 11 years old.
In your eyes, what made you difficult?
It was the feeling. It was hard on my hands. Being a little kid, it was just really hard to get used to. You have to build that callus, right? You have to, especially the acoustic. And they say start on the acoustic, which I'm a staunch believer in, because it's more difficult to play than the electric. You're a player. It's more difficult to play than an electric. And just as a little kid, even with the kid-sized guitar, he got me the kid-sized guitar. He knew I couldn't handle the adult, but it was tough. So 2 more years go by. We move out of the city. Family brings me up to Dutchess County, and I'm in this neighborhood now, and all the kids are wearing AC/DC t-shirts, Led Zeppelin t-shirts, and they all have their bands after school. And I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. I want to be a part of this. Right. And so I had to learn how to play, and I had to learn how to play fast to just hang out with my friends. And that was fine by me, And so I got lessons at the local music school right down the road, and I still, in fact, go there to this day. Nice. Just always trying to keep the skills sharp. And the rest is kind of history, but don't worry, we'll unpack that, I'm sure.
It's so amazing that I'm glad you persevered, because I think that's a common denominator with a lot of people who pick up the instrument. So now you've got the instrument, you move up to Dutchess County, upstate New York. Mm-hmm. You're surrounded by fertile ground in that these other kids are playing, and it's a good peer pressure to want to compete with that. At what point in your career did you write your first song or even think that, hey, I can write a song?
Yeah, so we were very lucky to be in the Poughkeepsie ecosystem, as I call it, where the chance was thriving in the...
Oh, yeah. I remember the Chance. Okay.
Yep. You could say I cut my teeth there and banged my head on the low monitors on the ceiling of the loft and all other sorts of damage-related stepping stone moments in that building. Being rejected at my first Battle of the Bands, going back and winning it the next year, which was fantastic, with the same judge who didn't even remember us, how badly he scolded us. But that's okay. I needed that. I don't hold it against him. He was being honest. We weren't that good at that time.
Right.
We're in this Poughkeepsie area, and we just... we're so lucky that some of our friends were in, some of the kids we were in bands with had older brothers and sisters who were in bands that were starting to get actual national attention. The Chance was a spot for a while there where A&R reps would come up from the city or fly in from LA or Nashville and scout. It was definitely on that circuit. So there were no joke bands that would start as local bands and would get on an independent label and headline that holiday festival. So some of my old bandmates, their older brothers were a part of that. And it was just like, we were kind of almost like do you like baseball?
Yeah, I'm kind of sports agnostic, but I do understand it.
Do you know they have the farm system in sports though? Where young athletes will kind of work their way up. It was kind of like that in a sense. And I know baseball's really good at that. Like, I'm not the biggest baseball fan either, but they really do develop. And so I felt like it was right off the gates, okay, you can play guitar now, write a song, because you're nothing until you can write a song, was kind of how my peers had viewed it all. So I learned how to play guitar 13 years old, and I wrote my first song 13 years old, the Memory Song, of course, about memories that I hadn't had yet, things I just heard people sing about.
Okay.
But we still wrote it, and everyone in my band, we all made ourselves, each of us, write a song, even the drummer, and we just kept chipping away at it, refining the craft. And I'm very thankful that it was competitive in the most encouraging sense,
Right.
Because it definitely pushed us to do the things that, if you want to be an original composer, you should really start building that muscle, but it was never like your song's not good enough. That was what was really cool about the Chance as well, the community, except for those Battle of the Bands moments where, of course, things got a little heated, but there was still that camaraderie amongst the bands.
All right, so do me a favor. It's great to hear that, don't take this the wrong way, that you got rejected the first time in Battle of the Bands, and then you came back up to win the next year. That is a pivotal moment, right? Yeah, at that point you could have said, screw this, I'm not that good. I'm not as good as, and I don't know if artists do that, but I find myself, I'll never be as good a guitarist as so-and-so. There's always somebody better and somebody worse, type of thing. But just for my edification, because my brother went to Marist, I think I saw Steve Forbert at the Chance, but explain to me the Chance, what type of place it is.
Yeah, so the Chance Theater recently closed down, although hopefully they'll reopen it soon. But it was a complex, so there was a tinier venue in the upstairs, kind of like renovated, built-out attic. That was a 250 cap room, which was the loft, which is where a lot of the local shows took place. And then the Chance itself was a 2,000 cap old opera hall that actually was renovated from the early 1900s to be a venue. Circa, I think, 1960 it opened. The Police played their first United States show there. Guns N' Roses played there before they got famous. Meatloaf had a standing yearly show there until he passed away. And
oh, wow.
Kind of just like one of those really cool, you're on Long Island, so...
almost like the Paramount or...
Yes, the Paramount. Yeah. I was going to say Revolution, but that's a little too small in comparison. Yeah, the Paramount.
Yeah, I remember going to see Steve Forbert there. My friend Bob Murray's like, hey, we got to go there. He went to school in Geneseo, and we went there, and it was great because you could get 10 feet away from the artist in the pit, from what I recall. So it's sad that it's closed down, but maybe somebody will invest some money and bring it back. Thanks for bringing back that memory for me, And for those who don't know, Poughkeepsie is an interesting area. It's kind of like a city that had its heyday and got depressed. It's got Marist College. IBM did a lot of investment up there, so there are a lot of IBM, probably still to this day, a lot of IBM people up there. And there's a psych ward as well, I think.
Abandoned now.
Is it abandoned now? Okay.
Abandoned now. They're probably tearing it down soon. Is kind of the talk about town, if you will. And I think they're just sick of the trespassing. But I guess that's a story for a different podcast.
By the way, I just want to say I found it so interesting to find you on Instagram. And I think you do really a great job on social media. And by the way, I just want to tell the audience, look in wherever you're listening to this podcast or viewing this podcast, whether it's on YouTube or Spotify, look in the description. You'll find all the links to Christian's work, and you'll see what I'm talking about. But that's what attracted me to, one, your voice, and it almost didn't match up to the person that I had seen. I was like, wow, this guy's got some really good set of pipes. Having said that, how did you develop, quote, your voice and how you approach singing?
Okay, so there's actually a very specific memory for that. We're going to pick up kind of where we left off in that origin story. Kind of the bargain was being the new kid in the neighborhood who also needed to be taught a little bit to get up to speed to be in the band. It was, well, we don't have a singer. So my friend Jeremy said, if I'm going to teach you how to play guitar, you have to sing. You just have to do it because we need a singer. And the rest is kind of history. I ended up loving it. But I was very, very politely pushed into doing it, you could say.
Coerced.
By an 11-year-old as a 13. Yes, coerced.
Did you take lessons or when I mean, let me clarify something. When I mean find your voice, I mean, we all have our singing voice, but my opinion, and I struggle with this to this day, is the character of my voice for a particular song. I have a lot of difficulty singing a cover song because I've tried to sing like the original singer, which is crazy, right? But finding my voice, do you go into a certain mode? Are you very flexible? Is it easy for you to find the note? How did you get to that point to sing?
I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Well, my parents quickly realized that I was very passionate about it, and they're big on education. So
Great.
They were the ones who first signed me up at that music school that I still go to this day. And so I think I got the training to control my voice through some really great vocal teachers. I played a ton of different kinds of music. I started off in hardcore and punk bands because at the chance that was kind of what was happening at the time. To kind of fit in and get booked on a bill, they wanted those kind of like Warped Tour was the scene, the crowd we were kind of running in. So the kids that were inspired by Green Day and Blink-182, that next generation, that was kind of us, like 10, 15 years removed, and just kind of carrying the torch. And I definitely love that music. I can't say I still listen to the hardcore as much as I do the punk. I still gravitate towards the punk rock. But I appreciate doing all of that because in that style of music, the voice is very characteristically that thing. And I don't think that is my voice, you know? I was able to, at the time, fit it into that mold. But I think, you know, in hindsight, the longevity was as my voice matured and I got older, it just wouldn't have been right in that style. Flash forward to 2016, I go solo. Really just some of my old bandmates. The old band didn't work out. We had a small deal. We were in a hardcore band on a label called Victory Records. We did the touring thing for about a year and a half. Yeah, it was a good time. I enjoyed it. I'm still friends with all the guys, and some of them still play that kind of music. Some of them don't. And we had a little bit of a run there for a minute. It was pretty cool. But you know, I'm glad that things all kind of went the way they did because, you know, my tastes have changed, and I think a lot of that change in taste is because my voice, it can't do the punk raspy thing. I have a very pure sound, if you will. At least that's the way my teacher describes.
Yeah, I would say that. Yeah, I would agree. Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, I'm sorry.
You know, as you're talking about having sung the punk scene, it's a great SNL skit where Fred Armisen is the father of a bride in a wedding, and he's got David Grohl as a drummer, and they're like, "Oh, we got the band back together, and we want to sing this song," and they go into this like hardcore punk. It just made me laugh because you do mature and. Although there are people a little younger than me that still do the punk thing, which is pretty amazing. But anyway.
I've seen that skit. It is a great skit.
What I'm talking about.
And it kind of, you know, I think I wouldn't say that I had the thought to say I don't want to end up like that. I just think I realized that this isn't gonna last through my voice. It's a little straining, first of all, and I don't want to hurt my voice as a singer. And I came pretty close to hurting my voice for a while there, just forcing it to do something it's not meant to do. So I think trial and error to answer the question, sorry to be so long-winded, but as I'm kind of thinking this through, trial and error, and constantly trying new things musically, whether it was punk, pop, rock, that's how I kind of found my sound, which I think now my goal is always just to pick up the guitar, and whatever comes out, comes out. I'll hear notes of the things I listen to a lot. Like I'm a huge Beatles fan. I love Fleetwood Mac. I really like that 70s Jackson Browne type of thing.
Yeah, the Laurel, I call it the Laurel Canyon sound, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'll hear notes of that, but then I also sometimes hear something and I'll be like, that's a little punk, but that's okay. Like some of that still comes out every now and then, whether it be like the chord progression or the way I'm thinking about composing the song.
Okay.
So yeah.
It's amazing all these influences, how it helps you develop the muse and go there. Hey, let's do this, Christian. Let's just take a quick break, and I'd love for you to play a song for us, and we'll kind of explore how you develop the muse and tips that you might have on your process. So, hey, everybody, stick with us. We'll be right back.
The Long Island Sound is here to help you connect with local artists. Follow us on Instagram for the latest up-to-date podcast episodes and also to connect with your local artists and their upcoming shows.
Hey, everybody. We're back with Christian Evanko. And Christian, before the break, I said, hey, man, it would be great if you could play us one of your original songs, and you're being very accommodating. Tell me what you're going to play, and let's get a gander of it.
Yeah, so this song is the title track of my debut record from 2016 now, but I still love this song to this day. It's called High and Dry. Funny story, if I could tell a quick story about it before I play it.
Sure.
I broke my rule for this song. It's a song about feeling upset about the way you were treated by certain people, and maybe being a little upset at yourself for not maybe standing up for yourself in the moment, right? Kind of playing the game in the industry, if you will, when in hindsight, you probably would have been better off standing up for yourself. My rule has always been not to curse. I find it doesn't age well in music. I did swear in this song. I'm not thrilled about it looking back on it. It's like my one recording regret. So I'm going to do the clean version for you, the version that I wish I had put out back then.
Well, you know what that means? I don't have to click the explicit box when it goes up on YouTube. So, hey, thanks for that.
No problem. All right, here we go. Do you still think of me from time to time? 'Cause I'll admit you cross my mind, and I know that ship has sailed. But still I wonder how you're making out, if he's gone or still around. And I pray someday that fails. Somewhere along the line I stop believing, 'cause the old me's dead and gone. Now here's my chance to say what I've been thinking. You are all so wrong. Oh, so wrong. You'll leave me high and dry, just like the rest. It's quite alright, I must confess that I'm used to this by now. And if you've heard the talk, you figured out that I'm the goddamn worst in town. So please buy into them. Whoa, I swear we've got a right to our opinions, but in time they'll find your flaws. Now here's my chance to say what I've been thinking. You are all so wrong. All right, thank you.
Man, that was beautiful. That was great. Thanks so much. I tell you, every time I've done a podcast, and, okay, it's going to be risky. We're going to do a quote live performance. That was great. Really, really nice. But you got a great setup there. So that's really kind of cool. And
Thank
a good
you.
voice. And a good song.
Fun.
Yeah, it all comes together. So just to retrace our steps here. So you had a band called Meridian. You got signed by a label. You did. Tell me about the touring thing, because I find that so interesting. How old were you Was it a summer tour thing? And, you had a manager. How did that all come about for you guys?
Yeah, so I was 18 at the time, had just graduated high school. We signed the contract in our last month of high school, 3 of us. We had one member who was 1 year out of high school and another who was 16.
Wow.
And yeah, we have very supportive parents, thankfully. I will tell you that much. And so the label was the real thing. They were the biggest label for hardcore punk at the time, called Victory Records. They had plenty of bands doing it to the fullest extent that you can in that scene, playing chance-sized venues, traveling the country. And we were hoping to be one of the next in the long line of those kind of acts. We did some touring for about 1.5 years. We went up to Canada. We did a Canadian tour supporting a Canadian band called Cold Front, who was kind of just breaking out at the same time. And they showed us the ropes. They showed us all the good eats. They were a great hang, and we still love those guys very much. And the shows were fantastic. And we followed that up with a full United States tour, supporting a Christian punk band. Even though we weren't a Christian band, like I said, my musical taste is listening to anything and everything, and
Sure.
I loved meeting anyone and everyone. So we opened up for them, and it was really cool to. First of all, they were on the come up as well, as you might say, and they were just so welcoming and inviting. And we did some smaller tours, a lot of East Coast runs. One of the things I'm sure with the people you speak with, we live in a great area. You can cover 3-4 states in a matter of 3 days, 4 days, and it's all new audiences. So we did that, and eventually the financial aspect of it all, and kind of getting a taste for it didn't quite sit well with some of us. I personally, in the moment, was upset that we didn't get to keep going with it. Like I said, looking back, I think that it all worked out. I think everyone is in a great place now who was in that band. Yeah, it was a cool taste of what that was like, though. I'll always appreciate it.
You know what I find fascinating and amazing as well. Being a parent with a daughter, we know at the same age as you, I cannot imagine telling my daughter or son at 18, oh, great, you signed, oh, you're going to go tour? You're going to travel the country at 18? What, are you kidding me? What are you thinking? Get a steady job. Think about your future. But that's the difference in being in a fertile field of somebody who knows, especially parents, right? They're supportive. They know you're a creative, and they let you do it, and it helped you where you are today. I think they should be applauded. So, Mom and Dad, if you're listening, kudos to you guys for letting Christian take that leap.
Likewise.
Hey, so I'm always interested, and I think the audience is interested as well. So you were 13, you write your first song, okay? And then you're working that muscle of the muse. Oh man, that could be a song. The muscle of the muse. How does it strike you? Do you sit down and say, I'm going to write a song? Does it come to you and you throw it in your phone? What's your process, Christian?
I would say I try to sit down and write a song, and that never works. You can't schedule these kind of things.
Agreed.
I think I'm both very, the two types of brains that people have. I don't know the names of them, but like the more managerial brain, that's very much so me. And then the creative brain, that's also me. And I often feel I'm kind of at odds with both of them.
Okay.
Because, it's like some people will not find that spot to pull over. They'll just take their phone out. But I'm just like, I can't text and drive. What if I get in trouble? So I sometimes might lose the idea trying to find the pull-off spot to get the idea in my head. But at that point, it normally morphs into something even better. So when it strikes me, I obviously go with it if I can. If not, I'll pull my phone out, use the little voice recorder on the iPhone. Fantastic tool. And I think sometimes I'll be trying to fall asleep because, I have to be a responsible adult and get up for work. And of course, in that moment, I'll hear something that I am this is very unfortunate. It's 11 at night now, and I know I'll be up until 2 working this out. But if I don't, I'll lose it,
Right. You got to strike. You got to strike while the iron is hot.
Yeah. So it's very spontaneous.
So does it come to you both ways, as the melody and as the lyric, or is it more consistent one way or the other with you?
So I was actually listening to your episode with Mindy, and
Mindy Smith. Yep.
Yep, I'm just like her in the sense that it's melody first, you know. It's rarely ever a lyric. What happens to me is I'll hear the melody, and it's never a guitar part either. It's always I hum something. It's always the vocal driven. I'll hum something, and then I'll go to my guitar and I'll say, what are the chords for that? Or the piano, what are the chords for that? And then as I play through it, a word will pop into my head, and then I'll ask myself, why that word? What am I feeling, or what am I trying to say around that word? And then slowly but surely, an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, whatever it takes, a couple cups of tea, you'll find the idea.
This might be a left field question, but as the melody strikes you, do you have the emotion of sadness, elation, joy, serenity? Does that come into mind, or that might drive you towards a specific key or chord progression?
Definitely. I think all of those I have felt at some point or another while composing a song. It kind of depends on what's going on in my life, you know? I think what I like to do is disguise things that I am either feeling or going through in a universal way, so that way maybe you can relate to it as well, or maybe I can guard myself a little bit if I'm being fully honest, you know? So if it's like a sad song, I might try to make it a little more universal, but sneak a line or two in there that if you know, you'll pick up on the very specific nature of it.
Cool. So the difference between Christian at 30 and Christian at 20 in writing a song, and let me preface this. I found, this is a generalization, many young artists are very introspective in their songwriting. Early Taylor Swift, about everything that's happened to her. Then I know songwriters who find a character or something way outside of themselves to speak to that, and some do that all over the place. And I've met singer-songwriters who will do a great deal of research on a particular subject that struck them with the song they just wrote to help them, I don't know, use the words of the hobo or whatever, whatever they're getting into. How has it been, back to my original question, between the Christian of 20, at the age of 20 to where you are today?
That's a great question. I think not much has changed, aside from the level of honesty that I'm comfortable with putting into the song. I think that there was often a sense of, when I was younger, in my 20s, early 20s, I am going to write about this because I have to get it off my chest, but I don't really want you to know fully what I'm upset about or what's bothering me, or whatever the subject matter might be, if I lost out on something or if I was upset about a certain incident, I had to write about it to cope with it. But I was often embarrassed about the fact that I had to write about it. Why can't I just move on and roll with the punches? Now I'm just definitely okay with just putting that on display because it does help me to get it out there. So I should not be embarrassed about that.
Yeah, that's a great point. What's interesting is, to me, when I can connect with an artist, in whether it's a live setting or hearing whatever they recorded, okay? And I've said this 1,000 times. What I love about what you do is that you're able to articulate many of the things I cannot say or out loud, and I can go, wow, yeah, he or she is speaking to me. And then I look back at a 20-year-old, and this is another generalization of, hey, that insecurity that you have about yourself, the transparency, there's more walls that are built up, more filters, more masks. As you get older, and I'm finding this is myself, and it's not crystal clear, is the artist that has that transparency and honesty is going to make a strong connection with their fan base, with their audience. And, you just go, hey, I like that freaking guy. He really speaks to me. Or his song, her song. I've heard this term before. Diane Lotney uses it a lot. She says, that song really speaks to me. I want to take it and run with it. So I don't know. I'm on the soapbox again, but that's what I find with artists. I don't know if you agree.
100%. I totally agree with that. I think for me, it was not that this was the exact reason why I became comfortable with being more honest. I think that was just a natural progression in my music, just as I got older and, just became more of an adult and realized that it's not the end of the world. But Jackson Browne wrote These Days at 16. And what a
great song.
What a great song. Can you imagine, like, how does that come out of a 16-year-old, first of all? But that song I must have heard it 6, 7, 8 years ago now. And I've just been in love with it since then. And it's taken me through some real highs and some real, sad moments. And he was not embarrassed to put how he was feeling at such a young age on display out there in that moment. And it helps me so much, that song. So I think that a part of realizing exactly what you just said, right? Just being able to be honest with yourself can hopefully resonate with other people. And in the case of Jackson Browne, that song really has helped me. And I hope maybe one day my music can do that with someone too,
It's so funny. When I'm working in the garage and I'm in my happy place and playing with my tools or doing whatever, trying to be creative, nailing or screwing something together, that's my go-to album is For Every Man. It's just a great set of songs that really came together. And I'm going to do another quick plug. So I got to, it's offbeat, but it's a Jackson Browne connection. I had the opportunity, and you got to check out this artist, Leslie Mendelson. Okay. Leslie Mendelson did a duet with Jackson Browne. He happened to be in the same studio on the West Coast with her, and he heard her and pulled her in. And there's a great video of her singing with Jackson Browne at the piano. It's kind of cool. And the weird thing, I just had a friend who saw Jackson Browne. He's like, Jackson Browne was that boyish look guy forever, and now he's an old man like me. And it's just kind of interesting. But so let me ask you this, Christian. Besides the art of the Laurel Canyon set, what artists of today do you really say, hey, they've really got their shit together, and I really admire them? Do you have like 2 or 3 that you would name off the top of your head?
Totally.
Okay.
The first one is a reggae rock ska band called Ballyhoo. Not only do I love the music, the singer Howie is the ultimate inspiration. They are a complete DIY band that since 1995 has been a professional touring act. They do their own videos. They record their own music. They print their own merchandise. And it's just, he puts these videos up on his YouTube channel of him just going through his day, talking about the ups and downs. And I often learn so much about project management from watching those videos. And I even was lucky enough to have met him by being interviewed on his podcast.
Come on. I mean, this isn't your first podcast?
No, but this is one of the most fun I've ever had on a podcast, so I can tell you that much.
You're too nice. Thank you.
So like the music is fantastic, but getting to know the person behind it and just seeing how open he is with working towards his goal is very inspiring, which I find out about a lot of modern artists. There's another band I love called The Midnight. They're this sort of 80s nostalgia meets Daft Punk modern techno thing, and they're very open about their process too, and I really admire that. And another reggae rock band that I really love is a band called Pacifier. They are kind of the prog reggae band. They do a little bit of metal, they do a little bit of jazz, a little bit of punk, funk, but it's all kind of comes back to this reggae groove, and it's just brilliant, fascinating music.
All right. So on that reggae ska groove, okay, and I love reggae, Bob Marley, he's back, well, can't see it, he's off to the side. So I'm going to plug 2, I'm not always plugging, but I got to plug 2 groups that I had that I think you're going to love. One is called Nonstop to Cairo. They produce their own stuff, DIY, their own videos, and they were just really amazing, really interesting backstory. Unfortunately, one of their band members died last year, and they came out with this album. It was just, man, talk about transparency, going through grief and writing about it. And the other one, which is a band that I had seen a couple of years ago called Aqua Cherry, that are such high energy. It was just, you couldn't help but dance and celebrate. It was just great. Anyway, I know it's about you, but
I'll check them out. I think you have great taste, so thank you.
What I have is I found myself in a lull and a rut of just, I'm an older guy. I'm 63, right? And you can get in that rut of reminiscing about what you like, which is great, Jackson Browne and stuff like that. But if that's all you're listening to, you're doing yourself a disservice. And I'll tie it to the fact that you said, hey, you know what? I still go back to my music school to hone my craft. And you know what? I'm going to tell the audience this. You got to go back to school and open up your mind to say, hey, you know what? There is a wellspring of talent out. I don't care where you are in the world. The local talent, the people putting themselves to the grindstone, being transparent, developing music, entertaining us, you're going to be surprised by what you can find in your local market. And damn it, we got to support them. And I'm going to get on another soapbox and I'm getting this from Pete Mancini, which he reels on this all the time. You know what? This is on Spotify. Spotify ain't making nobody money except Spotify. So go out, see people live. If you don't see a damn tip jar up there, put a damn tip jar up there and fill it with your money and sacrifice a beer or a cocktail and give it to that artist because it ain't easy. Anyway, see, I'm getting pissed now.
Well said, though.
Yeah, it's just, and so let's talk about this. Let's talk about, and this is what attracted me to you, is the fact that your social media. And I will say there's crappy social media and there's really good social media, and it's all about taste, right? Tell me about how you honed that skill and jumped into that aspect of what I call the fishing lure to say, hey, come listen to what I have to sing or say.
Yeah, so I think one of the things I've taken from my experience in the past working with a label and with management and all that is that when it's great, there's nothing better. But you're never going to work no one's ever going to work for you as hard as you're going to work for yourself. I truly believe that. And so if your numbers aren't as good as they were last month, then you kind of notice that they're not using that good of a camera this time to film us, or we're going to this studio now. We were just in that studio. Those aren't exact one-to-one situations, but we did start to notice things like that would happen in our production line, if you will. So I decided to learn it all myself. When the contract ended in 2015, I went back to film school in Poughkeepsie, Dutchess Community College, and studied for 2 years there, got a media production associates, and even took that further into New Paltz, graduated 2 years ago with a communications degree, which kind of gave me the business side. So I feel I got my more booky sort of keeping a calendar and writing a good email type stuff from my New Paltz degree, and the camera stuff from my Dutchess degree. But I just realized I would have liked for this video to have looked a little better, or this recording to have sounded a little better. So I kind of sought out those skills. I definitely am no master by any means. There's still so much I want to learn. I'm constantly watching videos on YouTube. I actually intern at a studio once a week. An old friend was so nice to actually take me on to learn the process and give me his time for free, and I just can't believe it. Hell, he won't take my money. He's such a nice guy. And so I'm working on that part too, recording and producing my own music. Just because I want to be able to control the schedule. Right. And also I feel like I'm so prolific, but I look back on it and I've only put out 24 songs and I've been doing this since I was 13, and I want to change that, in this next decade especially. I want to change that. So I think that's where it all comes from. It's just a desire to really be prolific and create as much as I can.
You know what? I share a similar story in that that's how this podcast got started. This podcast got started through a mistake where, there was the commitment didn't come through to be consistent, and somebody else was producing it. And I said to myself, I'm a techie guy. Screw it. I enjoy being a host. I'm going to figure this damn thing out. Did I make a lot of mistakes? Hell yeah. I made every mistake that you can make out there, but I learned a lot. And then you get a little bit of notoriety. I worked with a studio, LGC Studios here in Edgewood. A friend of mine works there. He knew I had a podcast and knew I knew the music side of the business. And I really got a great appreciation for their skills, their ability to do storyboards. And because I edit this podcast, the video part of it, I have a great admiration for the editor. and what an editor can do to kind of piece it together. It's like writing, you can keep writing. It's the editing that makes it a really good piece. So kudos out to the guys at Tony Martin and Shaggy and all those guys who helped me along at that part. And there's also something coming in 2025, which I won't talk about, but it has to do with in-person recording. So we'll leave that teaser in.
And I'll say this.
I'm talking too much about myself. Here we go again. Sorry.
No, I'm just excited for what you have down the pipeline too. But what I will say too is learning those skills at first out of necessity kind of helped expand the art form of this guitar here. Because, when I'm composing songs now, I often, sometimes in the middle of composition, I have an album coming out next year, an EP. It's going to be called Valley of the Bluebird, about this Hudson Valley that I love so much. And
Right.
A lot of that is when I was writing it, I was just imagining these places that inspire me about the Hudson Valley. The title track is very much an ode to my home and to this beautiful area. And I realized as I was writing it, I have to go film videos in all these places, Minnewaska in New Paltz, Mount Beacon in Beacon.
Oh, yeah, sure.
And I know how to do that now, so I can kind of see the shots that I want, and I can do it on my own time. I don't have to hope to God that the fall foliage looks perfect on the day that I book the videographer. I can just go when it's nice and when I have a moment. And it's really helped in that regard, too.
Yeah, I recall my drives up on 84 coming across to Route 9 and heading north up to Marist, and just seeing the valley, and then going the back roads, Route 22, which is on the western part of Dutchess County up to Columbia County, and from Putnam to Dutchess to, I think it's Columbia, right? Is the next one?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, hey, got it right. But is absolutely gorgeous any time of year, really any time of year, So let me ask you this. I'm going to go into one of our last topics here is, if I approached you as a newbie artist and I said, hey, Christian, I need some direction. I've got some of my own songs. I've gone to open mics and, practice my craft. But what would be the 3 top things that you should say I should concentrate on so I have some modicum of success on however I define success?
Yeah, the number one thing that comes to mind, and probably is the most important and the most boring, is practice. I still practice the covers I do on YouTube, or when I have to do a performance, I practice. I want to make sure that I am fully sharp on the chord changes and that I'm hitting the, vocal the way I want to. And I find that in moments when I kind of get too much in a guitar train of thought, then it takes me a day or two to get back those piano chops back up. So I think just keeping it all in motion always, even when you're tired, it's like working out, right? Some days you don't want to be at the gym, but you thank yourself for doing it later. So definitely practice. I would say stress management is one.
Oh, okay.
As a content creator and musician who begrudgingly has to be a content creator because of the way things are now, I think that at first it was very overwhelming. You're not only learning how to find your voice on social media, but then you have to learn how to get the camera right and the lighting right and the audio right. And there's a lot of factors, and it can get stressful. So I think taking it slow and just understanding you're doing this because you want people to hear your passion, managing that stress would be number 2 on the list. And I think the third thing is don't cut corners. I am putting out my album, my second album in, 2016. That's a little while ago. I'm not good at doing math on the fly, but next year my album Valley of the Bluebird will come out. And it's been since 2016 since I put out a solo release. Now, a lot of that was I was in other bands since then, but also these songs have taken a long time. 2 of the songs I started in 2017 after I had finished that last record, and it took me a long time to get them to where I'm proud to finally present them.
Interesting.
I'm also doing the recording myself, so that's another factor, but whatever part of the process you're working on, don't cut corners.
All right, so let me just review. So the first one, practice, woodshed your craft. Number 2, stress management, which is, I've never heard that before, so I think that's a great point. Not that I consider, I guess I'm a creator. That's one of the things that freaked me out about, I could have done this differently, and you rethink it, but you also have to get the content out. So that there is their pressure. And the third thing was don't cut, as I'm cutting corners. Don't cut corners. Hey, I definitely want to have you back when you're going to release that EP, so we can hit the internet and get some promotion out of it for you. That'd be really great.
Thank you.
Hey,
I appreciate that.
I really enjoyed my time with you today. We didn't really know each other prior to this, so it's kind of like it's a speed meeting to brush up. But you gave me some great insights into the business, into your career and how it came about. And man, I wish you the best with your music, and I'm really looking forward to what you have to deliver to us in the near future.
Likewise, this was a pleasure. I appreciate you making the time for me. I'm honored to be in such good company. You have an amazing back catalog. I hope folks check it out, and I wish you all the best as well. Thank you, Steve.
All right, everybody. We'll see you next time. Be well. Thank you for joining us today. I appreciate the time you spent with us. Please subscribe and comment, and visit us at gigdestiny.com. Till next time, be generous with your joy, keep your spirits high, and let the music take you on a journey. Be well. Peace.